Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. This is the Relax with Animal Facts podcast. This is the podcast where we adventure into facts about our furry, slimy, and scaly friends all over the globe, all while trying to make as relaxing an experience as I can. So there's most likely gonna be a lot of ums. It's a very easy fallback for me, so I'm gonna try my best not to kind of mumble and stumble and say every 2 seconds. So you can listen to this podcast in a number of ways. It is entirely up to you. You can put on the podcast and just sort of space out, or you can be completely attentive. Or maybe this is late at night, you just want to turn on a podcast, have something to listen to, and go to bed. And any way that you choose to learn about these animals all over the world, you can do so. I'm very glad we can take that journey together now, because many of the animals that I'm going to be talking about, in fact, most likely 95% of them, I will also be learning alongside you. I do not know a lot about certain animals. Some animals I know more with. I'm more of a primate guy than anything else. But even there's so many different species out there in the world that there's always something to learn. And I think that is the important fact. So let's get into the show. I just wanted to make sure that I kind of say where I get my information from. So the majority of my facts are taken from some credible source that has to do with animals or whatnot. So today we're covering the almighty, or the mighty rather, orangutan. So orangutan, however you'd like to say it. People say all different kinds of ways. But I'm going to be getting the majority of my information from orangutan.org. I will also be getting it from Discover Wildlife as well. So if you guys want to read up at all more about other animals, I'm sure that those other groups or those other animals on those websites that you can take a look at. And excuse the kind of the alarm in the background there. That's whenever somebody opens or closes my door, and it happens to be just a little bit of a busy time in my household at this moment in time. So let's get right into it. So the first fact I have written down here is that their arms stretch out longer than their bodies. So this is just very characteristic of orangutans. If you've ever seen them in the zoo before, maybe you've seen them on the internet, on YouTube, in some videos. But they are very, very unique looking, for sure. Their arms are very, very long. In fact, up to 8 feet from fingertip to fingertip. In the case of the majority of these very large males, these male orangutans. And the male orangutans too, I'm sure you've seen and you've wondered what the heck is that, is they have these very prominent cheek pads, and their heads and their cheek pads are a very specific size. The female bonobos, not bonobos, I apologize. You got primates on the mind. The female orangutans are entirely different looking, very, very different. They look more like your traditional monkey when monkeys come to mind. But with these male orangutans, they have very long arms, the long arms is with females and males. Now I'm talking about their face. And this is the thing about the podcast, is that I'm going to get sidetracked. I'm going to be kind of go off topic sometimes, because I think that's what the learning experience is all about, and you guys are here to be entertained in some way as well. And I'm very passionate about primates and monkeys and animals in general, and I always like to relate them back to humans. But let's move on. So orangutans, with their kind of very large face, they have their cheeks are very wide, and these are known as phalanges, not to be confused with the phalanges of your hand, meaning your fingers, but phalanges or phalanges, however you'd like to pronounce it. Those are what those very large prominent cheek pads are on the bonobos. And from the age of 13 past the age of 30, males develop or may develop rather, these very large cheekbones, or not bones. It's mainly adipose or fat tissue, but that is used for kind of the interpersonal competition. So when you have that male on male aggression, to have some sort of hierarchy. So this is kind of the alpha male sort of thing. So you see this same kind of thing in almost all primate cultures, excluding the bonobo. The bonobo we'll get into in another episode, but they are very, very interesting primates, very, very unique in their ways of life. But orangutans have interpersonal conflict a good amount. They grapple, they charge, they are like just big. They're the sumo wrestlers of the jungle, really. And if you've ever seen these orangutans, they're very, very large. So they grapple and they bite each other's heads and their cheek pads. So it's I'm sure it's a spectacle to watch. It absolutely has to be. So let's talk about locomotion for a second. So how do these what look to be like gentle giants, these orange gentle giants, when they walk, how do they walk? It's always important to have a distinction with how certain apes walk, because it differs. When you have monkeys and primates such as gorillas, such as chimpanzees, they're what are described as excuse me, as knuckle walkers. So what that means is that if you want, you can follow along, or you can just picture it in your head. If you look at the palm of your hand and you can see, look at your fingers, maybe just focus on one finger at a time. You can focus on your middle finger, and you see that there's 3 different sections. The one closest to your palm is your proximal phalanx, past that is your middle phalanx, and at the end there is the distal phalanx, okay? So these are all the different sections of the phalanges. What knuckle walkers means is that it is that middle phalange, that second section that they use to walk. So for gorillas, for chimpanzees, they have these really flat sort of, so if you were to curl your fingers, not all the way, but if you were to curl your fingers maybe about halfway, that is what gorillas and them walk on. So that is what is referred to as knuckle walkers. And in these monkeys, they have very flat and very wide, and there's a lot of kind of protection here because they're bearing, mind you, 300, 400 pounds, right? So these are big apes. But with the orangutans, they have they have a very, very different physiology and anatomy in comparison to those other guys. So they actually walk on their palms, but mostly their fists. So now if you make a closed fist, you can see what part of the finger is making contact with the ground now. Now it's that proximal part, that proximal phalange there, or the phalanx of each of those fingers. So of course there's going to be a lot more tissue, a lot more of a hardening around that area, so these very, very large animals can walk around comfortably. And let's move on now to one of the most important kind of things with monkeys, right? Because without this, it would be, I imagine, incredibly difficult. So orangutans, as well as the majority of other primates, have opposable thumbs. That just means they have thumbs that work in that opposition movement, so you can close your hands and grip around something, right? Grasp things. And as you guys know, locomotion with or how monkeys get around is mostly through swinging, except for some monkeys, of course, like gorillas and orangutans prefer to spend more time on the ground in terms of moving, because they're very, very large animals. They can still swing no problem, but you see them more on the ground than you do in the trees when they're moving around, at least. Unlike humans, approximately 1/3 of all orangutans do not have nails on their big toes. So, I don't know how mani-pedis would be for these guys, but they do not have nails on their big toes, which is interesting. So that's just an interesting little fact. But with opposable thumbs, that's when you get the possibility of using tools. So grasping tools and being able to use them. And you can see that a lot in chimpanzees, that they actually really enjoy, using tools to some degree. Even some species of gorilla, I believe it's a lowland gorilla, western lowland gorilla, I could be wrong, but they use sticks. They've been seen to use sticks and to kind of dig for ants in trees. So that is an incredibly important kind of thing, because it shows how intelligent these animals are, and rightfully so. I mean, if you look at evolutionary history, primates and whatnot, I think bonobo might be number one, chimpanzee might be number two, and I believe the gorilla is number three in terms of our evolutionary lineage, how close they are to us. And I think because of how close they are to us, it's really important to be able to look at these animals with a sense of respect. Not that all animals don't deserve a sense of respect, but I feel like these animals always have something that we can learn from, that we can kind of take away from, because at the end of the day, we're all animals. And I think to kind of deprive yourself of your acknowledgement that you have animal nature is more disadvantage than an advantage, because so much of our experience is through our animal nature, right? But let's move on. So for the first few years of their life, these young orangutans hold tight to the mother's body as she kind of traverses through the forest, and that's very cool. I think that infants in the primate world, unlike infants from, say, like maybe horses or from different kind of species, that their infants kind of become independent much faster and are able to kind of do their own thing. Many primates early on in life will really depend on their mothers for a minimum of like 6 years or so. So it shows, because just like in humans, I mean, you can't just you can't give birth to a child and then expect that child to be running around in a few hours. Like sometimes I believe that's with horses, right? Horses within they say within 20 minutes that it's able to actually find its feet and to move around, which is incredible. But we're talking about primates, which are so close to humans, and they have so many similarities, and I just think it's incredible. Orangutans have tremendous strength, so very similar to kind of how gorillas are about 4 to 10 times humans' strength, but orangutans, they also have that same kind of brute strength there, and that, if you've ever seen maybe videos, they can hang upside down from branches for long periods of time to get fruit and eat leaves. So they're really kind of like, they can do that Spider-Man kind of upside down thing, absolutely no problem. Let's move on to another fact. So as you guys know, orangutans, or if you haven't seen one before, you can absolutely Google it, but they have that really orangish, distinctive, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and they are referred to as blazing in the sunlight. But when they move into kind of shadow, they say that they virtually disappear. They really blend in well. So the shade of the canopy, and they say that their tan skin absorbs the light, so you can't see kind of any of the hair, but you see that dark skin underneath. So they can really blend in well. So we can see how that can be advantageous in their environment. Although primates don't have too many predatory problems. The main issues that orangutans face, and that a majority of monkeys face, isn't tigers or anything like that. It's mostly humans in terms of deforestation, destruction of their habitat, or things like that, which is awful. Orangutans are the largest tree-dwelling animals on Earth. So although adult male gorillas can climb up to canopies to feed, they don't really spend much time there, and they're referred to as being more terrestrial animals. But adult male orangutans, which can go up to, I think, around 140 kilograms or even more. For those of you that don't really know kilograms, that number 140 times 2.2, that would be maybe around very close to 300 pounds, or maybe a little bit over, or very close to it. These 300-pound or more primates spend 90% of their time in the treetops. So you can just imagine being in a rainforest. It's super lush, and you see these huge just apes in the trees, kind of eating fruits and eating leaves and whatnot. And I just think that's amazing, because being that huge but also being able to maneuver around. They're made for the trees, and they're made for that kind of environment, and which is why I don't like to get political or anything. It's just seeing their environment kind of go a little bit lower. That's also kind of the reason that I wanted to that I really like talking about animals, because I feel like sometimes it's not exactly the freshest in our mind that we share the earth to you know to a degree with animals. And as I said before, I mean, we humans at the end of the day, I feel are animals. And it's I mean, I think some people forget, right? Because we get so caught up in our jobs and in daily life that we forget that at the end of the day we are animals to some degree. And having respect for other animals around the planet, I think, is also a vital part of being human and having the gift of consciousness, right? Well, that's enough of that tangent. Let's move on to something else here. They say in the wild, females usually give birth to their first offspring when they're around 15 to 16 years of age. However, in captivity, females as young as 8 have given birth historically. So, and same with male orangutans, how in captivity they can give birth as young as 8 years old. Father offspring at no wait, sorry. Male orangutans aren't giving birth, but they're fathering offspring. Sorry, I better make that distinction, because there's still male in that sense. But so you can see how in captivity things change. Generally, things like you get life expectancy usually increases because they have less of a less of a chance of dying from any kind of infection or anything. Their diet is regulated. Although that majority of primates just spend their day eating, just like gorillas. They can eat up to 30 kilograms of food a day. In terms of vegetation and stuff. So these are very peaceful animals, and they can put away a ton of food. And I got another note here. So Bornean and Sumatran, I hope I'm saying that right, orangutans can breed together in captivity and produce viable offspring. So there were so many of these Bornean and Sumatran crosses in American zoos before that kind of breeding was banned, that there were more crosses in captivity than there were pure Bornean orangutans. So in zoos they have I think now a lot stricter laws in terms of what if you can if you're going to allow them to kind of breed with different species in that thing, because they're both orangutans, but it's just kind of more of where they're from, and they all have their little distinctions. So at a time, I'm sure the rules were a lot more relaxed, and they didn't kind of crack down on that kind of thing. But hopefully now, and I'm sure now, it's a lot more professional to that degree, that they really allow animals to have their own kind of subspecies there. So we're nearing kind of the end of episode number 1. I just wanted to thank you guys for listening all the way to the end, if you did, or if you just kind of fell asleep halfway through. It's no problem. I'm just here to kind of be with you for half an hour, 35 minutes or so. I'm not actually sure how long I've been talking. Hopefully I'm within that range. But generally these episodes are around 30 to 35 minutes, or that's how long I would like to keep it to, at least. I didn't actually ramble on as much as I thought I would in this case, because I get super passionate about orangutans. But actually what we can talk about really quickly is kind of what's going on with orangutans, because we're losing plenty of them. It was either 6,000 or 8,000 orangutans per year because of deforestation that's happening in many parts of the world. Let me just take a drink of my tea here. Hopefully I didn't slurp that too hard there. But the main, I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but palm oil, so those it's that edible vegetable oil that's present in so many things nowadays, because it has so many different uses. It's in shampoos, it's in lipsticks and makeups, and kind of all these different foods and packaged foods that are at the supermarket. And a lot of these companies don't actually go through they don't go through the ethical process obtaining it in the right way. It's kind of it's not regulated at all. And back in 2004, a board sort of opened up for the ethical obtainment, can I say that, obtainment of palm oil, so to make sure that we can really help orangutans out and prevent this mass deforestation, because it really is a lot when you look at it, when you look at facts like that. And of course, like, this world is a lot better with orangutans on it. They can, I would like to one day walk around in some lush forest and see an orangutan all Spider-Man like, kind of upside down, eating some fresh fruit. That's something that I would like to do. So I try to, in my day-to-day life, take some time when I'm at the supermarket, just kind of look at the back and see if there's any palm oil in there. And if there is, first question, if I really want it, or second question, if I really want it, the first thing I usually go through is to look if they're part of that. I think it's RSVO or RSPO. It's something like that. If they're a member of that organization, so I can know that they're getting the palm oil ethically and responsibly. So I try to do my part in that sense. And I'm not asking you to. I'm just this is all about education. It's not about pushing anything. I just like to talk about conservation and stuff, because I personally I find it fascinating. I find it really, really important. So. And I would like to end each podcast with a kind of something to do with the name of the animal, right? So maybe the name means something, maybe there's a funny story behind it. In terms of orangutans, it kind of fits into a few things I said before. Orangutan actually means a person of the forest. So absolutely, if I think that's a very, very appropriate name, person of the forest, because they have such human-like features. At least females and males do, without those phalanges on their face, because I've never seen a human being with kind of a very, very, I mean, I've seen prominent cheekbones before, but I don't know so much about orangutan cheeks there. But they have very, very human-like features, especially their eyes. You can tell that they really are immersed in their environment, and they enjoy life. So I just thought that's interesting. Person of the forest, I think that absolutely fits well. So if you're still awake now, or if you listen to the end, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to share or follow, whatever you'd like to do. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can let me know. You can shoot, if you have any tips or anything that you liked, or any kind of constructive stuff, you can send an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. If you want to make a theme song, if you want to do anything like that, everything is absolutely appreciated, and I very much appreciate you guys tuning in. So I'll see you next time. It's going to be a completely random new animal, and yeah, I'm going to make a series based on water, based on different kinds of habitats and regions, and make kind of a series from there. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited, and yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.